Hi Stampers, this is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm so glad you're here. Today we are doing a corner fold card, and that's this one right here. And it's just a bit of a fun fold, and I did some extra cutting in there that's going to be optional, and so I'm going to show you a couple ways you can do that. So let's get down to my desk. Okay, so here we are with the More Than Autumn bundle. So there is the stamp set and then the coordinating dies that go with it. We're going to be doing some stamping and then die cutting out our pieces, as well as some heat embossing. For the heat embossing, I'm going to bring in my embossing toolkit. So we're going to be using that. I have all our little pieces over here. I have some scraps to do our stamping. I have the card base, which is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And then I have this piece of gray granite that's going to go on the inside as the mat. And this one I'm making 5 1/4 by 4, and then putting a mat over that that is 3 3/4 by 5. I did 1/8 inch borders on this one, so they're slightly different, but I know you guys prefer the 1/4 inch, so I'm going to go with that. Okay, for the inside I have this extra strip of, it's just 3/4 of an inch. It's just a little bit of extra I had left over, so I figured I might as well use it inside. For the outside I have a piece that's 1 1/2 by 4, and then 1 1/4 by 3 3/4 that's going to mount over that. I have our piece of gray granite that is 3 by 3, and then the very vanilla that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I have a little piece of early espresso 1 inch by like 1 3/4. And if you're not going to do the cutting, then you may need an additional piece of early espresso that is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. For our card base, there's a little bit of some math to it if you want to do the cutting. Basically, we're going to come in 5/8 of an inch, and we're going to cut from there to 3 1/4. And then we're going to come in this way over 5/8 of an inch and cut from here to 3 1/4. And then there's going to be some diagonal scoring in the corners. To make it a little bit easier, I went ahead and scored it all the way across. And what I did is I went over 3 3/4 and then over this way 3 3/4. And then I scored between the two. And then I used my ruler and I penciled in this part. But that was just to show you guys so it makes sense. Okay, I'm going to do my cutting from the back side. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put this down at 3 1/4. And then I'm going to start my cutting at 5/8 of an inch. And I'm going up to 3 1/4 up there. So I'm basically going to go from the score line up to 3 1/4 inch. And then we're going to rotate. And this time I'm going to go this way. I'm going to put it at 3/4 of an inch on the front. And then I'm going to go from 3/4 of an inch down to 5/8. So I know that's a little confusing, because one of them came from the back and one of them from the front. But basically, this is what we want to do, is we want to be able to flip this corner. Now again, this is an optional thing. if that cutting is confusing, you can go ahead and just fold it all the way over. Just score it at the 3/4 this way, 3/4 this way, fold the entire thing over, and then you would adhere a 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 early espresso panel over this. And then you would move forward as we're doing the rest of the card. Okay. Inside the card, we're going to do a little stamping, and then we're going to do some stamping for the outside. Let's put down a couple of these pieces so we can get some things out of our way. So we can do that one, and we can do this one on the front. Now I know I've got all my pencil marks on there, but by the time we fold it over and we glue it down, we're not going to see all those. But I think those marks were helpful in showing you where our cutting is done. This designer series paper is Timeless Plaid. I thought it was a good fall decoration. It also does well for a masculine card. Then we're going to take this 3 by 3 and we're going to put it right in the middle. So that's where I was saying if you didn't do the cutting and you wanted to just lay down a piece of early espresso, then it would be 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and you would butt it all the way up to the corner down here so that it would extend out here. Then you will center this in the middle. But because we have that, we're going to go ahead and just put our normal border. See how it's got that even border all the way around. Okay, I'm going to save this. It's going to go on this layer here, but I want to do the stamping first to make sure we're happy with that so we don't end up having to flip it over. And then this is going to have all of the stamping pieces die cut and then adhered to it. So we can go ahead and adhere this one. And now we can do our stamping. So I have, like I said, I have my scrap pieces. We're going to use some Memento black ink. And then I'm going to stamp the little pumpkin in the middle of the coffee cup. And then I'm going to do one more slice of pie over here in the corner. As I said before, we're going to be heat embossing the front sentiment, so I'm going to bring in my Versamark ink. Oh, and I probably wanted to rub it with the embossing putty first. Let's see how we do here. Not too bad. The embossing buddy takes off any of the oils from your hands or any static electricity that may be on the paper. Okay, these reverse tweezers are awesome for holding on to the paper so that you don't burn your fingers like I almost did. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of coloring and then we'll do some die cutting. Okay, now we're going to use the coordinating dies to cut these out. Okay, and it looks like I've spaced them far enough apart. We're going to be able to run these through in one pass, but I'm worried that as I put them on the plates to run them through the embossing machine, they may shift. So to hold them in place, I'm going to use Post-it notes. Then I'm going to die cut a few of these leaves out of Cajun Craze cardstock. And so you can see that the leaves kind of die cut out in two pieces. I kind of wanted to use them as one, but now I'm ready to start building my little scene on the front. So I'm going to start with my sentiment, and then I'm going to use my largest piece, which is my coffee or latte, whatever we want to call this. So I want to kind of position that where I think it's going to go, and then kind of take a peek at where these other pieces will fall into place. I know I want these two together. So let's just put those together. piece of tear and tape will allow me to treat that as one piece instead of two. Okay, our final touch is we're going to run some linen thread around this outside edge. Okay, so I normally wrap it around 3 times. Use those reverse tweezers once again to hold the pieces together while I tie my knot. I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive right here. And that's it. Okay, so there it is. There is our corner fold card. I hope I've explained it in an easy enough way for you to understand that you can make one of your own. Enjoy. Bye.